So your parents have been here 20, how long?
Well, my dad does know English, but that's because he's Venezuelan and he studied in Mexico. And then
Hold it close.
he got a job in LA and he learned English. But my mom, she came around probably like 95 and she moved to Miami and she hasn't needed it there.
So in Miami, she absolutely doesn't need English, but you
No.
don't. You need Spanish. English
Yes.
speakers need Spanish to get on in Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so does she talk about, like, oh, I should learn English someday, or does it even come up in your house?
Well, she actually went to a private school in Nicaragua where she was taught French and English other than Spanish, but she hated English because she didn't like it. And she regretted it, but
So she's from Nicaragua,
yeah,
and your dad's from Venezuela.
yeah.
So how do they get by? How do they get by without? Can you tell the class? Because most people, has anyone ever been to Miami? Okay, so like, can you tell the other people, like, what's it like in Miami? How do you survive without speaking English?
Well, everybody speaks Spanish, so that's how you survive.
When you say everybody, what do you mean?
Okay, so if my mom were to go to a supermarket and she needs to find something, she asks someone like, oh, where's the bananas? And they'll know what she's saying in Spanish because they speak Spanish.
Because everybody speaks Spanish.
Yes.
Street signs?
Yeah, it's like also a lot of, if you hear in the airport, everything is like repeated once in English, once in Spanish. Like everything is, there's always translations for Spanish too.
Sometimes
Miami.
first in Spanish and
Yes.
secondly in English.
Yeah.
Like, when you get on the phone and you call and you're like, if you want to speak Spanish, hit 2 or whatever. But it's like, if you want to speak English, hit 2, because this call is going to be in Spanish, MFers, right? So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, and so like street signs, schools?
We have an ESOL program, so like they'll be in a class full of like probably 30 students that also only speak Spanish. Like I know that when I was also in high school, like there'll be people that would like recently come and they'll be my age and they'll not know anything of English and they'll survive in school. Like
Yeah. Yeah, you could
wasn't
come here and
hard.
never, if you stay in the Southwest or in Southern California or in Florida, Southern Florida, you could really spend your entire life and never speak English.
yeah.
Does anyone have a problem with that? Like, I don't see what the problem is, right? If you're not demanding it, people say, like, you should have to speak English, and people demand that you speak Spanish, but does your mother demand that people speak Spanish?
No.
Does she care if they speak English or Spanish?
No.
They don't care. You don't care. Like, this is this thing that I hear from people who are not part of this community of bilingual or immigrant people. It's like, if they should have to speak English, and they come here and demand services in Spanish. But I don't ever hear anyone demanding anything in other languages. They're just getting on with their own language. And so, I don't know. I mean, that's a question. I don't hear it, but... So does your mom ever, though, hang on, just one final question. Does your mom ever think, like, damn, I really need to learn English? Ever?
I mean, my sister is a Penn State alum, so whenever she came here for my sister and me, she does feel like excluded, but she just like gets by, like,
Yeah.
I'll just translate to her. She'll travel a lot to New York, but also it's kind of easier to get away with it in New York too.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's been fine.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I think I would say, I want to point out is the other side, when your mom, how old was she when she came here? Like 20 or so?
No, she was older. I don't know.
She was old. Like me old, or not that old?
I don't know.
Then
I was a
I'm
surprise
38.
baby, so like
Oh, yeah?
my mom had me like when she was older.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, listen, one of the issues is learning a language when you get older is really difficult. So that's why I know some of you are probably studying language here at Penn State. And, it's really hard. It's a lot easier when you're young, like your mom was in school in Nicaragua, right?
Yeah.
So But it gets harder. And for me, in the various places where I've lived, and I've really tried to learn pieces of the language, and it's really, really difficult. And that's how people can come somewhere and live and never speak the language. Like I could go somewhere and never speak, you know.
But there's actually like something really interesting in Nicaragua. Like they started teaching English to the kids just because like a lot of tourists will come,
Yeah.
and to accommodate for the tourists, like they'll know English.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Jessica
Jessica
Garcia.
Garcia. Okay, gracias, Jessica. All right. Dude, I don't know. I think I live in this world where a lot of the debates and arguments we have are really not necessary. It doesn't really matter. It just doesn't matter that much. And mostly what we see in terms of the United States accommodating, like if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, Lowe's and Home Depot, it's in Spanish and English, and that's true across the United States. All the signage in Lowe's and Home Depot and growing numbers of stores, it's all in Spanish and English. I mean, what it is, it's the free market, bro. The free market, which has made the decision to say, look, it's in our interest because the number of Spanish speakers is growing, and in some area, the number of Mandarin speakers is growing, such that it's absolutely in our interest if we make our store bilingual. And so they do. And if it wasn't in their economic interest to do that, they wouldn't. And so what we're seeing a lot is people accommodating Spanish speakers because it's in their economic interest to do so. It's not like because they hate English speakers, because they're anti-American, because any number of reasons that you could come up with. No, it is because it is in their bottom line profit margin to say this is good for us to do, and so we're going to do it. And that's how it is, and that's how we roll. So that's how most things roll.